Forget the Genesis story as you know it, where humans were crafted from mere dust or clay. Hidden away in ancient banned texts, in books like the Gospel of Philip and the Book of Enoch, we find whispers of a different kind of creation, beings not of earth, but of light itself. That's right. According to these forbidden writings, the first humans weren't even part of the material world. They were beings of pure light, supposedly an extension of God's own essence. Not physical. Not bound by matter. And definitely not made to toil and sweat under the sun. Imagine, for a second, a being that doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, and doesn't even experience pain. These weren't your average humans, they were spiritual entities, free from all the things we think of as part of being human. In texts labeled as heretical, like the Gospel of Philip, these luminous beings are described as emanations, direct offshoots of divine energy. They didn't need to learn wisdom, they were wisdom. They were created knowing, understanding, and perhaps most importantly, possessing a freedom we can hardly wrap our minds around. Think about that. Why would such beings be erased from our religious texts, our culture, our history? These texts imply that these beings of light had a connection to God that was pure, unmediated. No priests, no temples, no rituals, their existence alone was worship. And with that kind of connection, who needs a middleman? It challenges everything mainstream religions established to manage humanity's spiritual guidance. If these luminous beings existed, then what role does organized religion serve? And it's not just the Gnostic Gospels that mention them. Other ancient manuscripts hint at similar ideas, from Sumerian texts to Egyptian records. It's as if ancient cultures across the board wanted us to know that humanity's origins might be a lot more complicated, even celestial. Some texts go further, suggesting that these beings were the true humans, while what we think of as humans today was a downgraded, physical version created later. According to these sources, it's as if our bodies, with all their flaws and limitations, are a kind of prison for the soul, a dim reflection of what humanity once was. So here's the question we've got to ask: what happened to these beings of light? Why did our spiritual lineage get cut off? Were these beings eradicated, or are they somehow still among us, just hidden? And if so, is it possible that some of us carry remnants of this original, luminous essence? These beings were said to have gnosis, true knowledge of the divine, and with it, a kind of power that made them nearly godlike. But here's the twist: this knowledge, this gnosis, was deemed dangerous, forbidden. So, why would knowing the truth about your own origin be considered a threat? This is where the conspiracy takes root. The powers that be, you call them what you want, the church, society, authority, they're not interested in individuals with true, independent knowledge. They're interested in followers, not beings who believe they're made of the same essence as the Creator. Think about the implications. If you're a being of light, you're not just dust, not just a creation to be molded and controlled. You're something beyond, something divine. And the concept of needing permission, validation, or redemption would be completely out of the question. That's what these texts seem to say, that the original human was limitless, free, and in direct communion with the divine. A self-sovereign entity. This changes everything. So, maybe the reason we've never heard about these light beings is because it's just too powerful a concept. If you knew, if everyone knew, it would completely reshape the power structure, the whole control system that's been in place for thousands of years. Now, get ready for the human type you're all too familiar with, but probably never saw in this light. In the pages of the mainstream Genesis, humanity is crafted from dirt and dust, molded by the hands of a creator. But dive deeper, and especially into some of the banned texts, and it's a whole different story. These earthbound humans, let's call them the second type, aren't so much created as they are constructed, and by a being that's far from the benevolent creator we've all been taught to believe in. This is where the concept of the demiurge comes in, a term you're not going to find in your typical Sunday school. According to Gnostic writings, the demiurge is the architect of the material world. He's depicted as a kind of lesser, jealous god who trapped the divine spark within layers of earth, flesh, and bone. And why? To ensure a level of control. These earthbound humans are fundamentally different from the beings of light. They're bound by physical form, by limitations, by the ticking clock of mortality, all constructs designed to keep them grounded, confined, and, in many ways, obedient. Here's the uncomfortable part. In these texts, this creation was less about crafting life and more about manufacturing something functional, a worker, an entity that could be controlled, manipulated, and harnessed. This type of human is portrayed almost like a prototype, as though we're dealing with a blueprint for a biological machine, something that could be easily directed, distracted, and contained. And look at the characteristics of this earthbound type. They experience fear, hunger, and desire. These traits, seen as part of the human condition, aren't accidental. They were designed features, tools meant to keep this type of human constantly searching, constantly needing, and forever tied to a world ruled by the physical. Ever wonder why humans are seemingly hardwired to follow authority or get lost in endless cycles of routine and survival? According to these hidden texts, it's no accident, it's embedded into the very foundation of this type of human. Now, there's another layer to this that's even more unsettling. The Gnostics claimed that this second type of human was not only designed to be bound by the material, but was also cut off from true knowledge, or the gnosis. This was a strategic move by the Demiurge, who apparently didn't want these beings getting any ideas about their true nature. So, the earthbound humans were deliberately engineered to rely on intermediaries, on systems, on leaders, on religions. They were kept just in the dark enough to accept things as they were told, never realizing they were wired for a life of obedience. The Gnostics weren't just saying humanity was limited, they were saying it was intentionally limited. Picture it, a population engineered to be docile, to accept what's in front of them without questioning too much, and to trust in systems that promise salvation or order but never actually deliver it. Think about the implications of that. This isn't just a biological design, it's a blueprint for societal control, a plan that's been running for millennia. This earthbound human type is precisely what the mainstream narratives push. It's the story we've all grown up with, the one where humans are weak, need saving, and exist to serve some higher, often mysterious purpose. But if this story was designed to keep us from finding out the truth about our origins, then what's the real reason behind it? Alright, we've covered the luminous beings and the earthbound ones. But now, let's talk about a whole different type, humans born of fire. These fireborn humans aren't just spiritual or material, they're something entirely unique. You see, ancient Persian texts and some of the lesser-known apocryphal writings refer to a third type of human, one that holds an unpredictable, unstoppable force within. And this force? It's described as fire, not a literal blaze, but an intense drive, an uncontainable energy that can both create and destroy. This type doesn't fit neatly into any box. Unlike beings of light, they're not purely divine. And unlike earthbound humans, they're not entirely tied to the material world. Instead, they carry an explosive mix of both worlds, walking the line between enlightenment and chaos. These are the humans that rebel, that push boundaries, that can't sit still or be satisfied with status quo answers. They're the visionaries, the revolutionaries, the ones who change everything. Texts describe them as beings with divine wrath and creative fury, entities who don't just accept reality, they reshape it. It's like they've got this internal spark that drives them to disrupt, to dismantle, and to demand answers to the questions most people would rather ignore. Now, here's where it gets really intense. Some of these ancient writings suggest that these fireborn humans were seen as dangerous. Not to the universe or to creation, but to the ones in power, because if you've got a group of humans who are both fearless and insatiably curious, they're a threat to any form of control. And here's the thing, these texts don't just describe these people as fighters, they describe them as creators, people capable of harnessing this fire to manifest new ideas, societies, or even spiritual paths. This isn't just metaphorical language. Some ancient sources imply that these fireborn are literally more connected to the divine than other types, giving them an almost supernatural capacity to bring change. The Demiurge and those who control the earthly realm? They fear the fireborn because they can't be suppressed, silenced, or confined. So, let's dig a little deeper into the personality of a Fireborn. These people don't settle. They're not interested in conformity. They've got this inner drive that's constantly pushing them to break free from whatever system they're put in. Throughout history, we see echoes of this, figures who seemed like they were playing by different rules, who pushed society forward at any cost. They couldn't be controlled, no matter how hard the system tried. Some might call them troublemakers or radicals, but maybe they're something else entirely. Maybe they're the remnants of this ancient Fireborn lineage, carrying that same energy of creation and destruction forward in a world designed to restrain them. We've all heard the line, history is written by the victors. But when it comes to ancient texts, especially the ones dealing with human origins and our purpose, it seems like history was rewritten, buried, or straight up erased by those with something to lose. This brings us to what I'm calling the Neo-Genian doctrine, an ancient view about humanity that's been systematically erased. It's an ideology that divides humanity into these three distinct types: light, earth, and fire. But here's the thing, knowledge of this doctrine posed a serious threat to religious and political institutions alike. And it wasn't just swept under the rug, it was actively hunted down and destroyed. Why? Because the Neo-Genian doctrine paints a picture of humanity that's not simple, not uniform, and definitely not docile. The idea that people are born with inherent qualities, that some carry an innate divine essence while others are engineered for control, would upend everything. It dismantles the idea that every person should conform to the same mold, follow the same path, or adhere to the same set of beliefs. Instead, the doctrine suggests a world where humanity is more complex, with different people holding different kinds of potential, some purely spiritual, some earthly, and others just burning with transformative power. This type of message? It doesn't fit with systems built on control and conformity. Let's look at how these ancient powers operated. Texts that spoke of Neo-Genian ideas, that described humanity as multidimensional, were considered heretical and eradicated with purpose. The Nag Hammadi Library, the Dead Sea Scrolls, even these texts barely escaped destruction, and they're just the fragments that survived. Think about that. How much have we actually lost? How many ideas were purged because they didn't fit the narrative of a uniform, obedient humanity? And it wasn't just religious authorities who wanted these ideas gone. Political rulers, too, understood the dangers of a population aware of its own complexity. A society aware that its members are unique, with distinct spiritual and mental capabilities, is one that questions, that demands, that pushes back. A society aware of its diverse origins doesn't accept control easily. And the Neo-Genian doctrine makes it clear, some humans were always destined to question, to dig deeper, to resist. This doctrine suggests that control was never meant to be universal, it only exists because certain groups chose to deny people knowledge of their own origins. By destroying these texts, those in power weren't just trying to erase a few ideas, they were trying to erase entire ways of being. They wanted to mold everyone into a predictable, manageable form. These erased doctrines tell us that humanity was once more connected, more dynamic, and much more aware. The push to destroy these records wasn't just about religion or heresy, it was about power. Power over how we see ourselves, our purpose, and our potential. Here's a concept that shakes the foundation of what we think we know about our world, the Demiurge. This isn't some benevolent creator looking out for humanity. In ancient Gnostic teachings, the Demiurge is the entity who designed the physical realm, but not out of love or wisdom. This figure is more like a jailer, building a material prison intended to keep us trapped, distracted, and completely oblivious to the greater truths beyond. Now, according to these banned texts, this whole world, the rules, the suffering, the endless cycles of fear and desire, it's all the Demiurge's masterpiece. He didn't create it to empower us, he created it to hold us down. And he's not alone. The Demiurge supposedly has a set of helpers or archons, entities whose sole purpose is to keep humanity in line, to stop us from looking beyond the physical and discovering the truth about our origins and our potential. Think about how this plays out in the daily grind of life. Everything around us, the systems, the distractions, even the limitations we're taught to accept, serves to reinforce the idea that we're nothing more than physical beings. Our time is spent on survival, on acquisition, on conflict, while the deeper aspects of our existence, our spiritual dimensions, are left unexplored. This, according to the Gnostic view, is exactly how the Demiurge wants it. Now, let's talk about how he achieves this. The Demiurge's power is rooted in illusion, in creating a world so engaging, so demanding of our attention, that we rarely stop to question it. This world of illusion is a web, a carefully crafted system designed to keep us looking outward instead of inward. And this is where the role of the archons becomes crucial. They're like cosmic gatekeepers, entities that control not just physical constraints, but also mental and spiritual limitations. These archons feed off our ignorance, our confusion, even our suffering, keeping us locked in a repetitive cycle of unfulfilled desires and unanswered questions. What's even more disturbing is that the Demiurge isn't just interested in controlling the material world. Some sources suggest that he also has a hand in shaping our thoughts, our beliefs, and our perceptions. The systems of power, the institutions that claim to guide us. In this view, they're not random, they're structures built to reinforce the Demiurge's agenda, designed to make sure we never realize that this world is, ultimately, a construct. This isn't some natural order. It's a cage. And it goes deeper. The illusion isn't just in the systems around us, but in the very idea that there's nothing beyond this physical existence. The Demiurge wants humanity convinced that our bodies, our lives, our struggles, that's all there is. And by keeping us in the dark, he ensures that we remain dependent, limited, and endlessly seeking fulfillment in a world that was never designed to provide it. So, if the Demiurge's goal is control through illusion, then uncovering this truth would be the first step to breaking free. It raises the question, what would happen if humanity woke up to the fact that everything we're experiencing, everything we're told to value, might just be part of a massive, cosmic con? We're talking about a game rigged from the start, with humanity kept in check by a creator who isn't benevolent but self-serving, and a world built to keep us locked in the dark. Ancient mystics and esoteric traditions, the sources that mainstream religion often tries to sideline, have been whispering the same idea for thousands of years, that humanity isn't a single entity but a spectrum of beings with different origins, different essences. And they didn't just make this up. From ancient Egypt to Persia, from early Hindu texts to the mystic writings of the Kabbalah, we find a recurring idea: humanity's essence isn't one size fits all. Instead, we're a blend of beings of light, earth, and fire, each with its own unique role and purpose. Let's start with the mystics of ancient Persia, who recognized this tripartite human nature. They spoke of fire souls who held the raw, uncontainable energy of creation and destruction. In their view, these beings weren't rebels without a cause, they were here to challenge the status quo, to bring change in a world that constantly resists it. Fast forward to Hindu teachings, and you'll find references to gunas, the qualities of light, inertia, and fire that describe the forces driving each individual. Sound familiar? Because this idea of humanity being composed of distinct spiritual types wasn't just philosophical musing. It was seen as practical, a way to understand the world and to know who you really are. And the Kabbalah? It takes things even further. In Jewish mysticism, humans are described as vessels that hold divine sparks, fragments of a higher realm scattered through creation. But not every vessel is the same. Some are naturally drawn to enlightenment, to divine light, while others are tightly bound to earthly desires or fiery drives. These aren't metaphors, they're descriptions of real, different forces that supposedly live within people. It's as if these traditions were trying to pass down a warning: understand your origins, because it's the only way to break out of the mold forced on you. The question is, why would such a concept be treated as forbidden knowledge? Why would recognizing your own essence be considered so dangerous that it had to be hidden, banned, or even destroyed? Because if humanity could embrace the idea that we are made of distinct spiritual energies, it would end the one-size-fits-all control model that religion and politics depend on. A light soul seeks knowledge and enlightenment. An earthbound soul values stability, routine, the known. A fire soul? They live to shake things up, to ignite new ideas, new movements, new perspectives. Now imagine if these souls knew who they were, what do you think would happen? This understanding, passed down by mystics and hidden away in secret teachings, threatened every system designed to treat humanity as a single, controllable entity. The ancient Egyptian priests, the Sufi mystics, the alchemists of medieval Europe, they weren't just hiding in their scrolls and symbols for the fun of it. They knew they were protecting knowledge that, if made public, would destabilize entire structures built on the idea of a unified, predictable humanity. The very existence of these teachings in esoteric tradition suggests that those who understood the real nature of humanity were forced underground. They became the secret keepers, the ones who couldn't speak openly without facing severe consequences. And if their knowledge is as real as these ancient writings claim, then what they were hiding isn't just about spiritual insight, it's a blueprint for understanding human potential, a guide to realizing who you are beyond the limits set by society. This knowledge didn't disappear. It survived, hidden in symbols, in coded writings, in whispered teachings passed down for those willing to listen. And if the mystics were right, then this lost understanding could be the key to breaking out of a cycle humanity's been trapped in for thousands of years. The system might have buried the truth, but it never quite killed it. So here we are, we've covered light beings, earthbound humans, and fireborn rebels, and how these ancient texts lay out a blueprint for understanding humanity's true, hidden potential. But let's face it, the fact that this knowledge was banned, buried, and demonized tells us something crucial: it matters. It mattered enough to hide. It mattered enough to destroy. And it matters enough today to reconsider everything we think we know about ourselves. Here's the deal: if we accept the idea that humanity is made up of different types with different origins, we're not just looking at an ancient theory, we're looking at a new way of seeing ourselves. Think about it, each of these types represents a potential, a drive, a calling. Some of us are drawn to knowledge, to spirituality, to the mysteries of existence. Others find purpose in grounding, in the tangible, in the here and now. And then there are those who feel an urge to change the world, to create or even disrupt. These aren't random personality quirks, they're deep, ancient archetypes hidden in our DNA, our very soul. If we recognize and embrace this truth, it means we're breaking out of the mold imposed on us. We're freeing ourselves from a system designed to confine, control, and restrict. And let's be real, that's exactly what a lot of these banned texts were warning us about. They weren't just teaching us metaphysical ideas, they were shouting at us, trying to get us to remember who we are and what we're capable of. But somewhere along the line, we stopped listening. The potential of these three origins isn't just to explain our past. It's to unleash our future. Because if humanity understood itself on this level, if we knew which ancient origin we were connected to, if we respected those differences, embraced them, and worked with them instead of trying to shove everyone into the same box, can you even imagine the kind of society that would create? A world where people are living authentically, not because they're following a script, but because they're tuned into who they truly are. That's the world these hidden teachings dared us to imagine. A world where humanity isn't living in ignorance or fear, but in full awareness of its origins and purpose. And honestly, that's why these ideas were shut down, silenced, and deemed dangerous. Because a humanity that knows itself, that recognizes its own power, doesn't need the chains of control, doesn't bend to imposed limitations, and definitely doesn't settle for a life of quiet submission. Now, I know this was a lot to unpack, and maybe some of it sounds far-fetched, but if nothing else, these ancient texts and forbidden ideas remind us of a profound truth: we are more complex, more varied, and more powerful than we've been led to believe. And maybe, just maybe, rediscovering these pieces of ourselves is the first step toward reclaiming our true potential. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey. If this has sparked something in you, if it's raised questions or made you see things a little differently, let's keep this conversation going. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let's dig even deeper together. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, the truth might be hidden, but it's never lost. Thanks for watching.